Bleacher Report just published their list of the top 100 NBA players of all time, and several Heat players made the cut. What the list got right or wrong about Dwyane Wade, Jimmy Butler, Alonzo Mourning, and many more on today's episode of Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat, whether you're tuning in on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app. Thanks so much for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. I'm Wes Goldberg here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat media members who cover this team every day. For daily content on the Heat, click that subscribe button on YouTube. Make sure you're following us on your podcast app. Have a great show for you today. We're going to tell you who Bleacher Report believes Dwyane Wade ranks ahead of all time in a second. But first, what's left for the Heat to do this offseason? I thought, David, we could start today's episode with just a quick recap, a rundown, a summary, if you will, of what's left for Miami's offseason now that Summer League is over, and we still have a little bit of runway here before the start of training camp. And the first thing would be to fill out the training camp roster. Miami can have up to 21 players. Any NBA team, for that matter, can have up to 21 players on their training camp roster. The Heat have 15 players on their roster right now. That includes Vlad Golden, who's on that two-way. So you have 14 players on standard contracts, 15 with Golden as the only guy on the two-way. So they do need to add, or can add, at least up to 6 players here before training camp begins in about a month. So I expect Drew Smith to be back, at least in a in some sort of training camp scenario. He could very likely be back on one of these two-way contracts. So he'd still have two-ways available and have not signed anybody as the time of us recording this. So I expect Drew Smith to at least be part of the training camp team and might have the inside track on getting one of the two-ways. I also think two of the Summer League standouts, Devontae Cook and Eric Stevenson, guys who don't have a contract currently with the Heat, I'd expect them probably to be part of Miami's training camp roster if they don't get picked up somewhere else. And then Bryson Warren is just a name that is always bouncing around, whether it's Sioux Falls, the G League, Summer League, all these things too. So that's 4 players out of the 6 that Miami can add. But we'll see what happens, right? We know that they like the Sioux Falls pipeline, but we've also seen them do like last year where they went out and got Nasir Little, right? And that was sort of a surprising training camp invite. So they could definitely go outside and bring people in, but they tend to look inside first and then kind of go from there.
Yeah, I think that's probably a sound way of looking at it, because that is what they're looking for. And it doesn't matter. There's no specific position or skill set that they're looking for. It's just more about bringing in players that they think have a little bit of oomph in their game and that have a chance to develop a little bit further, so they'll extend the opportunity. And again, like you said, whether it's a player that they've already worked with previously or somebody that they might just take a chance on like Little, they'll be able to open up those opportunities to anybody. So I've always found that interesting, that it just doesn't seem like, whoa, that's not a player that seems like he's projected to get a lot of playing time, and yet that's not what their concern is. If what is it that Eric Spoelstra always says, make me want to play you and make me want to watch you, etc. Like that's what they're looking for, a player who does the dirty work, who puts in the time, and just shines somehow in this limited opportunity. That doesn't guarantee anything, but we have seen players stick around as a result, and I think that's an opportunity for them to stick around, be a part of the organization at Sioux Falls, and continue to work their way up, and eventually could lead to an NBA job.
It's a way to get them around the organization, and that basically training camp is a funnel to the G League, and then the G League is then a funnel back to training camp in the cases of guys like Devontae Cook and Bryson Warren, who, again, just guessing, we have no reporting on that yet, or I shouldn't say no reporting, but nothing's official. One thing I would like to mention, though, is Victor Oladipo had a workout in Las Vegas for NBA teams. He is actively trying to get back into the league. That is a workout that the Miami Heat attended. I don't know what that means. I know that the Heat are fans of Victor Oladipo as a person. This might just be, hey, we're in Vegas. Let's just go over and see what this is all about. They might just say, you know what, we've spent so much time with Vic that we kind of just want to check in on how he's doing.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that they're going to sign him. It certainly does not mean that he's got the inside track to the 15th roster spot. I don't think that's what any of that means. I don't know what it means, but I think it's worth at least mentioning here. I don't know if you have any takes on Victor Oladipo, but we could move on if you do. If you don't, but.
No, it feels like a little bit of a tease because I understand how fans want to wish him the best, and he's an all-star caliber player, or was at one point in his career, and it's unfortunate how the end of his career played out. But even just from a logistical standpoint, like Miami's not going to pay a vet min for a player like Oladipo when they can just bring in somebody from the G League or Sioux Falls or just somebody that's going to be on a prove it type deal that's undrafted. Those players are much cheaper. And for a cap conscious team like Miami, not necessarily cheap, but they're strapped right now in terms of what they can do financially. Paying a guy like Oladipo, who's put in the service, he has a couple $1 million as opposed to maybe less than 100,000. That's a significant difference, and that difference translates into several more $1 million in a tax hit and things of that sort. So I wouldn't expect the Oladipo signing unless another move comes out that the pipeline.
And he's got too many years of experience to be on a two-way. In case anybody was wondering, that's not a thing that he's allowed to sign. So, you mentioned it already, but the Heat, another pending piece of business right now for Miami is to get under the luxury tax. They're $1.3 million over the tax right now after making the Norm Powell trade and the Duncan Robinson signed trade, brought in Simone Fontecchio and all these things. They don't need necessarily do that this summer. They can wait until as long as they get under the tax by the end of the regular season, then they avoid triggering the repeater tax and things like that. So the goal is to get under the tax, but not necessarily they don't have to necessarily do that this summer, although they might explore avenues to do that, which takes us to our next piece of business, Terry Rozier. I do think the Heat are open to trading him. I don't think that they are desperate to trade him. In other words, I don't think that they're going to add an asset to just get off of his contract because it comes off the books next summer. There's nothing really pending right now. I think Miami might look around and say, does a trade materialize? Can we use his contract to maybe as an escalator to get up to a bigger salary or of some kind if a star becomes available, perhaps. But it's hard to trade Rozier right now with the ongoing investigation. And that might be more of a trade deadline move anyway, right? Maybe in February, potentially when this ongoing investigation concludes, potentially. I have no idea when it will. But it seems like right now they're in a holding pattern with Rozier unless something magically materializes, which again, I don't know how many teams are calling about Terry Rozier right now, not only because of how poorly he played last year, but also just because you don't want to recruit that investigation into your program if you can help it, probably.
Yeah, I don't see any advantage for a team acquiring him at this point. It would be simply a player that you'd acquire at the trade deadline to provide some cap relief, and
that would be it.
That's the only positive about Rozier at this point.
Yeah.
And in that case, that Miami has an opportunity to maybe see that he has more to give, and maybe he does have a bounce back. He's not as bad as he was last year. I think that's fair, right? I'm not saying he's a great player. He's never been a great player. He's had moments of goodness, but he's not as bad as he was last year. So there's clearly something, whether it's injury or off the court stuff somehow. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but he struggled last year in a way that we didn't expect him to.
Last thing here, the extensions, right? Well, maybe not the last thing. The Heat do kind of going back to adding and the luxury tax. You and I believe they need to add a center. We talked about this last week. We did a bigger in-depth piece on their center situation last week. So you can go check that episode out if you want more on that. But you and I agree, no urgency right now. They're at least not showing any urgency. They could wait for roster cuts. They could wait for training camp to see if somebody else pops out. At that point, whatever, you again referred to the bigger episode on centers last week, but that is something at least pending. The extensions is also a big thing here. Tyler Hero, Nikola Jovic, Norm Powell, all extension eligible right now. We've talked a lot about Tyler Hero's extension. Tyler Hero has talked publicly about that extension. Pat Riley has talked about it. I tend to think that this is something they're going to do next summer, right? This is the first year of eligibility. He's not a free agent next summer. He's not even a free agent the summer after that. Like, there's not a rush to get this done. And in fact, it could help. It could even help Hero make potentially more money if he waits until next summer. I don't think the Heat are in a rush to do anything, so maybe this is something that waits until next summer. Nikola Jovic, Now that's a little bit more interesting as we get closer to the season in October. Does Miami offer Jovic something? We know that they are huge fans of Nico. We're big fans of Nico. Do they try to get something done that they might project could be below the market value for him going forward? Get him on a team-friendly deal? Maybe they offer something. But as we talked about before, David, Nico could just say, no, I'm going to bet on myself and wait until I could be a restricted free agent next summer and try to make some money. But who knows? Maybe Nico's looking at restricted free agents this year like Giddey and Kuminga and Cam Thomas and saying, like, I don't know if I want to deal with restricted free agency.
Yeah, it's a big risk. And he might not get the opportunity to showcase what he's about. So you're kind of banking on, some potential there. Like, I mean, if further, much more developed and restricted free agents are having a hard time finding the kind of lucrative deals that they'd want, a player like Nico really can't afford. So it's definitely Miami holds the pole position here, and they can control the negotiations however they want to, because I don't think Nico has much of a leg to stand on when it comes to any kind of bargaining or reasoning as to why he deserves a bigger contract. He's been hurt. He's got a lot of potential, and yeah, they like him a lot, but he's not going to get the kind of opportunity. At least I don't project him to, where he's going to be able to showcase his skill with a lot of playing time this year. Yeah, I don't see it. I mean, he'll be in a rotation. He could. I don't think that's likely.
I wouldn't rule out him getting 25 to 30 minutes a night. I think he's going to be a part of the rotation. Like I said, like he might start over Kel'el Ware. Who knows?
Yeah,
I think it depends on training camp and preseason and all these things. But to your point,
part of the Eurobasket.
He will be. Wait, is he playing in Eurobasket? I'm not sure. I should know that.
Okay, didn't put you in the spot there.
But the other one here is Norm Powell. But he's another one of these things that the Heat can do this summer. Don't have to do this summer. I don't expect them to do it this summer. And he's actually extension eligible until the end of the regular season, I believe. And so they could just let this thing play out and see what happens, which is what I anticipate is what they will do here, because it just makes more sense for both sides, frankly. Bleacher Report recently put together their list of top 100 players of all time. Did they finally settle one of the biggest debates that Heat fans have been fighting for years? We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Heat.
Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. You ever wish managing your money felt easier? Well, with Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center, and you can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Was there maybe something that you expected to see added up in a particular way, and maybe the numbers just didn't add up. And next thing you know, you get Monarch Money here, and they figure out exactly how you're managing your money. It might not be the way that you expected it to. And next thing you know, you'll be able to set aside the money that you're looking for to continue to build towards something, whether it's that big purchase or maybe you're saving for something down the road. You never know what could come up. Monarch Money will help you get there. And so you can take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKDOWNNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKDOWNNBA for half off your first year. We'll be right back.
Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Bleacher Report came out with their top 100 NBA players of all time. The list featured quite a few Heat players that we'll get to here in a second. But we're going to start with the greatest Heat player of all time, Dwyane Wade, who they had ranked 23rd, just ahead of Giannis, just behind Karl Malone. What did you think about Bleacher Report ranking Dwyane Wade 23rd all time in NBA history? Too high, too low, just right? Where are you at?
It feels just right. There's so much nuance that gets baked into all these things. I don't think it's an inappropriate call on Dwyane. I think he's got the accolades. He's certainly got the individual numbers. He's got the team championships. He's been to the finals a number of times, etc. He's an accomplished player. Of that, there's no doubt. But there's always some nuance to take into consideration here. And at 23rd, I don't think it's a problematic selection necessarily, because it recognizes his overall greatness within the context of the game. If anything, I feel it might be a little too high. I don't know. Top 23rd play. Like, does it feel like Dwyane's a top 20 player in the NBA all
I
time?
have always just sort of said, like, sort of generally, Dwyane Wade to me is a top 20 player of all time. And it's one thing to say it. It's kind of like when analysts are like, I can't believe this guy's not an all-star. Okay. Well, who are you taking off the all-star team? Because you have an unlimited amount. It's just like, if you're a top 20 player of all time, okay, that's 20 guys. That means only 19 guys in NBA history get to go ahead of him. Who are they? And who are you leaving? Who are you putting behind him? Who are you leaving out? And you start getting it through the top 10 and everything like that. At 15, we've got Jerry West, right? So already we're like, okay, Dwyane Wade, clearly not Jerry West, right? I think we could agree on that, right? Even a Heat fan wouldn't, right?
No. I mean, I've seen a lot of Heat fans debate that Jerry West was not that good a player.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying not to get into the would Dwyane Wade beat Jerry West one-on-one. Of course he would, but but that's not what it is, right?
It's a context of what those players were able to do in those respective
within their era.
eras.
It's ability. It's not ability versus each other. It's ability versus everybody else in their era plus resume. That's what it is. You can't look at this as a one-on-one game. Jerry West was, so I think when you have Jerry West at 15, I'm like, okay, Dwyane Wade is somewhere past that. That's what I think. You've got Garnett
at 20.
You've got Garnett at 16. Now we're starting to have an argument, right? Garnett at 16, that felt a little high to me.
It did.
He won one championship. I don't know that I'm like, really? But then you've got guys like Julius Erving, who to me clearly ahead of Dwyane Wade all time.
I'm not so sure about that either.
Well, he's got the ABA stuff.
Yeah, but again, that's lesser competition too. So I mean, that was.
It's a good point.
I mean, I love NBA history, but at the same time, like I can't, if you're including what he was able to do with the Virginia Squires of all things, like that's great. But
he was a one-time NBA champion, a two-time ABA champion, and he won the MVP 4 times, but only once in the NBA, 3 times in the ABA. So do you just kind of give him 50% credit for the ABA stuff? So he's basically a 2-time champion in total. And like a 2.5 time MVP. Yeah. I mean, even if you do that, that's still like by himself.
Oh, yeah.
More individual accolades than Dwyane Wade had. Although D Wade has more championships, and he's also a 16-time All-Star, but that's also including the ABA. But how much do you? It's against that era, right? Like that's the thing. It's like how much do you hold against him that there was 2 professional basketball leagues in America at the time? It's very difficult, right? Like I think you can have a legitimate argument of D Wade being anywhere between like 16 and where he is. To me, I think he's certainly ahead of Giannis. He's definitely ahead of Charles Barkley. I'm just going in order where Bleacher Report has these guys. Elgin Baylor at 26, Isaiah Thomas at 27, Scottie Pippen at 28, John Stockton at 29, Chris Paul at 30. Like to me, Dwyane Wade is easily over those guys. Like that's not even debatable to me.
Over Scottie Pippen?
Yeah, D Wade was a number 1 on a championship team.
Yeah, I suppose.
Was Pippen ever considered the best player in the NBA?
No.
Like D Wade, there was like a couple of years there where it was like, he might be pushing LeBron.
Yeah, I mean, he might have got an MVP in 2009 or 2010.
And he might have had a Finals MVP if LeBron didn't poop all over himself in the 2011 Finals.
I know you've long maintained that point there, but I mean, yeah, and that changes things completely. Like he was a better player in that series over even LeBron James.
Mm-hmm.
I think Dirk was ranked above him too in this list.
No, he was not. Oh yeah, he was. I'm sorry, you're right. 18, which I thought was shocking. Now Dirk has the 1 MVP award. I assume that's matters.
Why. I think he also holds a special place for a lot of voters, just because. I don't know. His personality is different, less abrasive than Dwyane's was. Dwyane
they knocked him down, right? They knocked down the giant. They were David versus Goliath, and I think people put a lot. They give. Isn't that the old Bill Simmons thing where he thinks that the trophies should be like different colors or different sizes based on something? And I think it's a great take. It honestly is. And people say like the 2011 championship is like worth so much more than a lot of other championships just because of the giant that the
Yeah.
Mavericks were going against that year. So, but I think you can have a real argument about any of these guys and put them in any kind of order too. So the one thing I did want to point out though, I'm glad that Bleacher Report did this. They had Dwyane Wade at 23, which I think is probably too low, but it's in the ballpark. So I'm not going to get mad at it, right? Like I already said, generally top 20. If you're 23rd, that's kind of generally the same thing. Like that's around what you should be. They had James Harden at 34 and they had Paul Pierce at 49. So we can stop the argument. We got to stop it. Especially it's funny to me that it's only Rockets fans who think that James Harden is even close to Dwyane Wade all time. It's only Rockets fans who push this. So just ask yourself, remove your bias for a second, and nobody else is doing this? Don't you think you're a little biased in that? And then Paul Pierce, 49 of all time. So sorry, Boston Media Mafia, you failed on this one. You might have gotten Marcus Smart the Defensive Player of the Year award, but you didn't get Paul Pierce up there with Dwyane Wade. He's not even in the same ballpark as him.
Yeah, I think that was pretty clear. The Harden, I guess, more positionally than anything. I don't know. It's just a strange argument that we've talked about a number of times here. Better individual scoring numbers, perhaps. But in terms of overall impact within the context of the game, there's nothing that beats what Dwyane Wade was able to do as a two-way player. To me, I think
it's a long way to say he didn't win nearly as much as Dwyane Wade.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's closer to Kobe Bryant than James Harden is to Dwyane. Is that far-fetched?
You think Dwyane Wade is closer to Kobe than Harden is to Wade?
Dwyane Wade.
I've been saying that for years.
Okay.
I'm with you. I think D Wade's highs surpass Kobe's highs. I think Dwyane Wade was a better player at a point than Kobe ever was. Although Kobe has an incredible resume, and I don't mean to diminish anything that Kobe did, but Bleacher Report also had Steph over Kobe. Quick take on that. Just give me an agree or disagree. Like they had him one spot ahead of him.
Agree.
Me too. That was one of the most debated things online, which doesn't surprise you considering the Kobe hive that exists on Twitter. But we'll get to some of the other guys that played in a Heat uniform that are on this list after this. So Bleacher Report had Michael Jordan number 1, LeBron James number 2. Not to spoil the ending, but there it is. I think I know how you feel about this, but are you okay with the ranking anyway?
I can't really debate it too much. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I know that it's the legend of Michael more than anything else, but you know, they made the strong case that LeBron could just as easily have been number 2. I was number 1, excuse me. And in fact, I don't. They list amongst the voters what the highest rank was that the player was considered and what the lowest rank was, and you know, some voters had LeBron at number 1. So I think it just shows that the debate is still a strong and an active one. Like you can have LeBron as the best player of all time, and I think it's certainly a justifiable position. Look, Jordan had some great moments, and he was much more ruthless, I think, than even LeBron has ever been. And I don't think there's any problem in that. And it doesn't change the fact that I think LeBron has had a greater impact in terms of his much more diverse abilities.
So you'd have LeBron number 1. If you were voting on this, you would have been one of the voters that had LeBron number 1.
And I've seen Michael. I've seen his career, but it's just everybody kind of remembers it because we've heard it from him so much. It's the legend of Michael Jordan that Michael Jordan will be more than happy to share about the legend of Michael Jordan. So I think that's one thing. But I mean, if you follow basketball in the 80s, there were people who hated Michael Jordan and thought he was overrated. And he's like, oh, all he does is score. You know, he doesn't really do anything. He can't win. And not until they got Horace Grant and Phil Jackson and Scottie Pippen that he started winning. And that's like, oh, okay, fine. Imagine those arguments being online today. You'd be like Luder and Ariek. Oh, 60 points against the slow-ass Boston Celtics. Big deal. You know, if Twitter existed in 1985, that's what they'd say about him. So, I mean, I don't think it's a different argument that you can't really make. But, I mean, I love Jordan. And when he played, he was fantastic. He was certainly undeniably the best player in the game at that point in time. But I think LeBron is still number 1 overall.
So they also had, and by the way, I'm not even sure where I fall on that. I would, if I had to vote, I might go Michael number 1. I don't know. I just the 6-0 in the finals, and he does not have a blemish on his resume like LeBron's 2011. And I know that's splitting hairs.
That's fair. That's fair.
But that's what we're doing here. But to me, it's a 1A versus 1B because you also look at LeBron's right. He's the number one. Nobody's ever scored more points than him. Nobody has ever done. It's absolutely crazy. And longevity does have to count for something, but that's not the debate we're gonna have here. Although I think it's a great one. Bleacher Report also had Shaquille O'Neal number 6. Now, obviously, dominant center, dominant career. Did win a championship with the Heat, although most people would put he's up on this list because of the things that he did with the Lakers. But maybe he's, over Tim Duncan at 7, over Larry Bird at 8, because he did get another ring with Miami, right? He did do it somewhere else. I do think that ring does matter, even if it doesn't equal the totality of what he did in LA. But I actually thought this was very high, David. I would not have had him this high. I would not have ever had him over Tim Duncan or Larry Bird, ever.
Oh, I think he's better than both of them.
You would have voted him all time over Tim Duncan?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
Duncan's Duncan's a top 10 player, sure. But I think in terms of individual dominance, like Shaq could have been better.
But he
That's
wasn't.
the crazy part. I know, but he
could have been. I agree with you on this.
Force. Yeah.
How high do you think he could have gotten on this list if he really wanted to?
Oh, top 4?
He's at 6
and
now.
Maybe not even 4. Yeah, top 4, maybe not
and
even
not 4. That's
yeah.
sort of he might have been a lot closer to the Jordan LeBron conversation.
Yeah.
Based on where he got drafted and the career he could have had.
And from the jump too, like his rookie season, he was already like, and this was the era, in my opinion, the best era of the big men in NBA history. You had so many great centers, like Hall of Fame caliber guys: David Robinson, Patrick Ewing, Hakeem Olajuwon, Alonzo Mourning, and he and Shaq went in there. And so his development was a little bit slower. I think he's being recognized mostly for what he was accomplishing as a Heat player. But Shaq from the jump was just like, you couldn't stop him. Like he was smoking guys that were like all-stars, perennial all-stars as a rookie. And he was just so quick and so strong. And then, by his own admission, he bulked up when he joined the Western Conference and the Lakers because he had to go against, stronger, bigger centers, and he wanted to find an edge. I think it's BS, but that's a whole other story. He just got a little lazy. No, I think it just.
No, I agree with you. Eating. I agree with you.
He liked eating, and he didn't like, exercising as much as he could have.
So they have Chris Bosh at 71. One spot behind Wes Unseld and one spot ahead of Paul Arizin. I like that Bosh made the list.
Yeah.
I know we're a podcast about the Miami Heat. I feel very silly about debating the 71st player of all time. I'm just glad he made it, and it feels about right. Like top 75 feels right to me when we're talking about Chris Bosh.
Yeah, it's all about the versatility with him and was he able to bring to the position. And he changed and morphed over the course of his career. He was a fantastic defensive player when he hadn't been that in Toronto, and he wound up being like just a stellar all-star. And we've talked about it during all-star selections before, the fact that the coaches recognize his impact so singularly. Like they see and a team like the Big Three, they're like, yeah, you don't win without CB. And and I think that's worth bringing up. And that's why he's
13-year career, right? Obviously cut short by the blood clots. 13-year career, made the All-Star team 11 times. I mean, he was just awesome.
Yeah.
All the time. He was just awesome right away and awesome until the very end. He was just always good.
Could you imagine what would happen? Like, I hate that what if scenario.
No, he'd be higher. For sure.
I mean, hell, if Dwyane leaves in 2016 and the team kind of migrates towards a CB-led offense, like, I wonder what kind of numbers he would have put up.
He was already flirting. We talked about this last week about how he was already starting to take 3, 4, 5 3-point attempts per game at that point, and then his career got cut short. Imagine had he just stayed in the league for another 3 or 4 or 5 years, he would have. I mean, he would have been showing Karl Anthony Towns how it's done, right?
Yeah,
like that's sort of what his future might have been, where he would have. I think his offensive numbers would have been insane, absolutely insane for a couple of years there. All right, they had Alonzo Mourning at 87. I'm fine with it. We're starting to run out of time here, but they had Jimmy Butler at 83. And I've seen Heat fans get upset about this because they think it's too low. They see the guys that he's behind, like Bob Lanier. Who even is that guy? Nobody's ever heard of Bob Lanier. Dikembe Mutombo. Nobody's ever heard of Dikembe Mutombo or Tiny Archibald, right? Talking about the younger
Tiny,
Heat fans.
tiny Archibald. Come on.
He's ahead
what a
of
knock.
Adrian Dantley. He's ahead of Sam Jones, and he's ahead of Tony Parker. So, and he's also, a few spots ahead of Zoe. Again, when you get into this range, it's more important to me to think about what the tier that they're in, the range that they're in, the names that are around them, and not debating necessarily should they have been a spot or two lower, a spot or two higher. You really want to have that debate about the 83rd best player in the NBA? Go ahead. But I do think it's fascinating when we think, because Jimmy Butler has had a very strange career. There's no doubt about that. And some of his playoff highs are as high as anybody on this list, right? Quite literally as high as anybody on this list. We saw him put up Michael Jordan-esque numbers in the playoffs before.
Yes.
But you look at the resume, 6-time All-Star. That's not a lot compared to some of the guys on this list. He did make All-NBA 5 times. That's a big number. 5 times All-Defense. That is a big number, but never sniffed MVP. I mean, his career stats, 18 points per game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. Like, I don't know how history is going to remember Jimmy Butler because he's had such a weird career, because the playoffs had such outsized importance to the way we think about Jimmy Butler currently. So what do you think? Do you think he should? I mean, and going back to Bleacher Report, they had like the highest ranking they had him was 61. Some people didn't even have him in the top 100, which is a pretty big gap. So I don't know. What do you think? This is the right area for him, or do you think he should have been like a tier higher?
I think he shouldn't have been ranked at all. Top 100 player in NBA history. That feels like such a disservice to so many greats that kind of get overlooked and forgotten, and that had more consistent careers than Jimmy Butler. Like, Jimmy Butler was a guy who worked his way up, and we love Jimmy around these here parts, and we've always appreciated what he can do on and off the court. I don't have any problem with the way he left Miami or anything like that. And I was a big fan of his joining the team well before he joined the team. And at the same time, I just think within historical context, I don't think he's ever been the kind of player that you would recognize as a top 100 players. Like, he's had incredible moments, and yet he's not a transcendent player. He's not a historical great player. I think, and to your point, is like, how is he going to be remembered within the annals of NBA history? Not well. Not well. It's kind of like a player you'd have to appreciate in the moment, but then you kind of look back and be like, oh, those were his numbers. The way you guys talk about Jimmy Butler, you think he'd be a great player. And quite frankly, I don't think he was. Like, a very good player within this era, and had some incredible moments. And again, there's the legend of playoff Jimmy, and the reality was very, very different. And I don't know that it's not sustainable in terms of how his impact will be remembered throughout history.
You know what? I'm already considered a Jimmy Butler hater, so here it goes. I agree with you. And I'll go one step further. I can't believe he's 10 spots ahead of Jason Tatum at 93.
Oh. Well, I don't believe Tatum should be on the list either, but that's just
Tatum's a champion. Tatum won a championship. He's a 6-time All-Star and a 5-time All-NBA guy, just like Jimmy Butler, and his per-season stats or his per-game stats for his career are way better. Like, what's the argument to have? I mean, we could debate whether or not any of them should be on the top 100, but to me, what's the debate of having Butler 10 spots ahead of Tatum? I don't see that argument.
Better defender?
Is he?
Is he? I don't know.
Right? Like, I don't know. Like, yeah, you got, okay, so great. You got on all defense 5 times because earlier in your career, you were known as a Toumani Camara type of player. And we're just like, we like him. We're going to give him a spot on all defense. Tatum was a star off the jump. Like, those guys just don't get thought of as great defenders, but I think Tatum is as good a defender. Maybe not as good. That's not fair. Jimmy Butler was a better defender at his peak than Jason Tatum was, but Tatum's not a bad one. And the resume speaks for itself. He's a way better 3-point shooter. I don't know. Again, love the Jimmy Butler years, but the Jimmy Butler years, the reason we loved them so much was because they were so surprising. Yeah. It was because you had the 83rd best player in NBA history playing like one of the best 10 players in NBA history for a couple of weeks at a time.
You don't see that very often, right? Like,
ever?
Even a guy who might like a borderline all-star player transforming into the most dominant player in NBA history over the course of a couple of weeks. Not something you see very often. And that's what kind of, makes it stand out that much more. Like Jordan, you knew you were going to get those kind of productions. You get those kind of games from him. Jimmy Butler putting up that kind of numbers? No, you don't think so. even Dwyane in 2006, again, his production was so much higher and so much more consistent playing alongside Shaq. And it still fell short of what we saw from Jimmy during the finals run, especially in the Orlando bubble. Like, those were monster games.
Wait, Dwyane Wade in 2006 fell short of Jimmy Butler in the bubble?
Yeah.
No way, dude.
Statistically, yeah.
What?
Statistically, what we saw from
Dwyane
Jimmy
Wade was averaging like 35 points per game.
What we saw from Jimmy in the bubble, like the biggest games.
I guess it was like a triple-double, but he wasn't averaging 35.
Stay tuned for an episode later on. Jimmy Butler in the bubble versus Dwyane in 2006. Who you got? Let us know in the comments. Woo!
That's a great call. That's great offseason content. We'll end it there. Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen today. Let us know what you think. Jimmy Butler or Dwyane Wade? Who had the better NBA Finals? I'll just remind people that Dwyane Wade did win the championship that year. For your second listen, find Locked On NBA. Where there is no offseason, Doug, Matt, and Hayes keep you up to date on contract negotiations, rumors, and everything you need to be the most informed NBA fan. Find Locked On NBA on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.